if you're a man and you suffer from erectile dysfunction, whether you're in a relationship or not, it's probably one of the most demoralizing things that can happen to you. For most men, not everybody, of course, but for most men, it's one of the most demoralizing things. In essence, it's like you've lost your manhood. Just think of, I've seen these movies in the past where they, in the Roman emperor empire, they would take a man and they would turn him into a eunuch, and it's just not worth thinking about. So the question is, if you've got erectile dysfunction, what can you do about it? You're watching the Haroon Rabbani show. We are live right now, of course, at the time we're doing the live, and I'm with Dr. Ashish Paul. Dr. Ashish, welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome and good evening. Hi, Harun. And it's good to be back. We missed last week as you were not well.
Yeah. Well, in essence, and big mistake. What I did was I food poisoned myself. I made rice, and I forgot to put it in the fridge, and I had that rice 2 days later. And I made a
Oh,
meal
yeah.
for my son was over as well. Oh my god, we were like vomiting shortly after the meal. It was not, it left me very weak. So it's so important to treat yourself well. Doesn't matter how healthy you are, and I consider myself relatively healthy. So here's the thing. In the UK, now I'm going to read the actual figures. 4.3 million people in the UK, 30 million people in the United States, and of course there's other countries across the world. These men are suffering from erectile dysfunction, and these include people with type 2 diabetes. And according to Diabetes UK, if you have type 2 diabetes, 75% of men will suffer from erectile dysfunction between 5 and 10 years within that time period of having diabetes, which is a very realistic time period, by the way. You don't just get it for a week and then it's gone. It doesn't work like that. And so it's a significant problem. And one of the big issues is this, that if you're married, you're in a relationship, you've got erectile dysfunction, as much as your partner, your wife, may support you. I've had clients, plenty of them, people who I've spoken to, maybe not even clients, female clients, who've said to me, you know what? I think I need to have an affair because I'm not getting satisfied. And that's the truth. It's the thing. It's what actually happens. So some of these women will go and have an affair. Others will be thinking about it. And of course, they'll never tell you as a man. And us men, of course, what do? We go on try to get ourselves distracted by throwing ourselves into work, throwing ourselves into good causes or the family, but all the while neglecting something which is extremely reversible. So, quick symptom. You'll know you've got erectile dysfunction. You can't get it up when you want to. That's it. It's as easy as that. So, Ashish, what are the common causes? I'm talking about physiological causes of erectile dysfunction. And by the way, if you're a woman, please do watch, because your man might be suffering or may suffer in the future
Yeah.
with this. If you're a man, you definitely need to watch because it may affect you as well. So, what are the common causes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of this scenario mainly in terms of fertility, that when couples cannot conceive, and obviously, when I'm taking the case history, it is then revealed that man is having this issue, and because of that they can't conceive. And even I find where there is, it's not a big issue, it's not all the time, but still, some erectile dysfunction is there, or premature ejaculation. Sometimes it happens at both of those happen together, is that they have been having issues to conceive. So I see that more in fertility world, in that relation. But physiologically, a lot of diseases, as a side effect of certain diseases that can happen, or as an effect of overall a body disease, such as cardiovascular disease is a big one. Also, as the side effect of cardiovascular drugs that are given for hypertension, that are given for anti-cholesterolic medicine specifically, it actually lowers your libido, also causes erectile dysfunction. And then there are we're talking about physiological issues, right? So there
Mhm.
are other conditions which can cause diabetes. Of course, you have already mentioned that. Excessive weight can cause this. And if you're a man who has very sedentary lifestyle, that can also exaggerate it. It won't cause it, but it can exaggerate it. Only a very small percentage of men where there are actual issues with the what we call with the penis or with the other sexual organs or the testes where it may cause you erectile dysfunction, but we're talking about a really small percentage here.
Yeah, absolutely. And stuff like obesity, and the thing is that the fertility rates of men, I'm talking about men now, is getting worse and worse as
Yeah,
decades are passing. It's way, way, worse now than it has ever been before, and it's not heading in the right direction. And we are getting
50%.
more sedentary. I kind of am saying like sedentary, and I mean, for example, if you look at a young man, I don't know, late 20s, late teens, early 20s, and into their 20s, a lot of them are very much into their video games, the live video games. I'm so out of touch with what kind of games they play. However, in doing so, being in front of the screen all the time, they are not giving their body the chance to actually stay fit, and let alone
Yeah,
prevent erectile dysfunction. So okay, so we're going to come back a bit more about what you can do. Let's talk about the psychological causes, because I obviously deal with people with type 2 diabetes. They're pretty
yeah.
simple causes. There's some very important psychological ones. What are the ones that you've come across which contribute? By the way, smoking, not good.
Yeah.
Not good. What are the psychological causes that contribute towards erectile dysfunction?
Yeah, we're going to talk about psychology. Just I want to mention, as you mentioned about the reducing fertility in men. So the sperm count and the sperm numbers and rate or the decline in fertility since 1970 has been now 50%. So 50% decline in men's fertility, which is actually is just, it's a number which you can't comprehend because it's too much. And it is still going down. It's not that it has plateaued. We are still finding that sperm count and numbers are reducing, and even the size of the testicles is getting smaller and smaller for last, as I mentioned, since 1970s. So that's just to point that out. So that is, millions of men are in that situation where they do not have healthy sexual organs being developed. Now coming to the psychological part, it is what I have seen in the data and in the studies, and also as part of learning medical all the medical information, is that it's 90% or perhaps even higher is to do with how your mind works, how your mindset is, how you have been how have you got information related to sex and sexuality and relationships in your early years when you are a teenager? How did you get that introduction into that world of sex and sexuality? And we know now, a lot of youngsters who watch porn and or the read erotica material, written material, or watching something online, which is one of the biggest disruptors in the sense of it doesn't give you healthy habits as far as sex and sexuality is concerned, for young men. But with mindset, it is instant gratification is one big one, that you want it there and now. And also nobody is talking about healthy sexuality. Yeah, it is about just the release of just ejaculation is seen to be the final end. And that is where I think men are missing the point. And unless you have a role model or unless you learn it in a proper way, um, that's where we are missing.
It's difficult for I have to in defense of the men, of course, it's difficult to
Okay.
find role models in sexual health. Those role models often are for the porn stars. So
Yeah.
I think there's a very big psychological. It's very complicated. It's not as simple as we're going to make it. We're going to break it down for you. But of course, one is watching too much porn. Now, what happens when you're watching too much porn? One of the things, of course, you set expectations. You got to remember, these porn stars get paid to act. Yeah, they're having sex, but they're getting paid to act and paid to groan and moan and whatever it is that they're doing. In real life, women, um, they don't get paid to have sex with you unless you go to a prostitute. Um, but the art of intimacy, lovemaking is a different ball game. It is
Yeah,
beyond the physical practice. The problem is with women, it's an emotional journey. With
yeah,
a man, it's very often it's not. And therein lies the problem. There's a mismatch of energies. Therein lies the problem. And so when men are spending so much of their energy attracted to somebody who's fake, basically not real actress,
yeah,
and what they're doing, and usually the guys are probably not going to be average size guys. You're going to set expectations.
yeah,
You're going to get embarrassed, and there's all sorts of crap that goes on in a man's head. I'm a man, so I have some idea, and you'll have all sorts of ideas going in your head which does not match reality. And when it doesn't match reality, you're going to have low self-worth around your own sexuality.
yeah,
There are so many issues around that, but it's not the reality. The truth is, if we say stop watching porn, you're not going to do it. So it's not that. It's about controlling. So let's talk about chi. Do you talk about prana and chi
yeah.
in terms of masculine energy? So
Absolutely.
in essence, from my perspective, I mean, I know Ayurvedic is Indian medicine, the oldest medical system in the world. Traditional Chinese medicine is probably the second oldest, or certainly slightly younger than Indian medicine. But
Yeah,
the fact is, it's one of the oldest in the world. It's an ancient system as well, and they talk about chi. Chi is your life force,
yeah,
and every time you ejaculate, you're releasing your life force. That's not good. You're releasing your masculine energy. That's masculine energy you need
yeah,
for intimacy. Just think about it. A man typically, once he's ejaculated, once he's climaxed, what does he want to do? Fall asleep, right?
yeah.
Because you've just depleted extremely important, vital energy. So, in terms of prana, in terms of Indian energy systems, what are your thoughts, or what is the perspective from you, as far as you're concerned?
Absolutely. So if you think about women, there is one egg that is released once a month, at most two, occasionally. So there is so much. It's so eventful, even for that one egg release. Yeah. So just imagine when there are millions of sperms that are released in an ejaculation. And yes, from Ayurvedic perspective, from your life force perspective, it is life force that you are releasing. So if you are not mindful about that, it depletes your energy. If you're just constantly masturbating and ejaculating, or you are just having a lot of sex and ejaculating all the time. Uh, so that is where you need to be mindful. But regardless, it is not about. I don't. I'm not in favor of people abstaining from sex. I think healthy sex life should be right at till the end of your life. But it is about having the quality of sex and having the quality of intimacy. That is the most crucial part in this. And you need to learn what you mentioned, the art and science of lovemaking, art and science of being intimate with another person, whichever way your orientation is, whichever gender you like. But it is about making and enticing them rather than just going in and that's about it. That's the end of it. So we also have a lot of what we talk about from tantra perspective, how you should be intimate with a partner. And Kama Sutra is there. It was part of Indian heritage, and how people should be intimate. So we have lost that art. Just learning about sexual parts or body parts is not sex education only. So you need sex education, you need sexuality education, you need relationship education as well.
Yeah.
How do you relate to people, which we do not learn? And that is where, do you know, in ancient India, there used to be these schools where they would teach you sexuality, how to be intimate, yeah, for younger boys and younger girls. There used to be those schools. We don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we we should start one, or we need to do something about that, because it is learning the proper release of masculine and feminine energy as well, and knowing when to preserve it. So it is crucial from, of course, from life force point of view.
What one of the Mantak Chia, who's a qigong master, one of the tips he gives is this for men, is actually when you do masturbate, do it for long enough and to the point where you're going to ejaculate, but don't
Yeah,
ejaculate. And over time, you'll be able to retain that energy and still have orgasm. In other words, not ejaculate, but still have orgasm. And I have to say, I can't, usually I can say I've done this and done that. I haven't tried that because I've not had an
that's a
issue.
very small percentage of
Yeah,
men. That
yeah,
is
yeah.
a very, very small percentage of men.
And
Yeah.
and so there are things you can do. Sexuality and sex has been taboo subject by many, well, not many, some religions. Not from the religions, religious backgrounds we're from. It's not been taboo, but it has been taboo from other subjects. And it's so important that you read on it, talk about it. But let's bring the soul back into the relationship rather than just the physical. The physical, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, doesn't do anybody any good, and it spreads a lot of disease. You can have the most intimate, amazing relationship, but you've got to make you priority first. So when I talk to some of these people, some of these men, for example, who have got ED, and I'm talking to these various clients, because a
Yeah.
lot of people, like I said, about 75% of men with type 2 diabetes have got ED issues. Some of them are in denial. I've got equipment to measure. Of course, we've talked about that, the BioWell device to measure the energy
Yeah.
fields, the energy projection of your different organ systems. And the equipment, the science doesn't lie, of course. Some of them will be in denial, whilst others will, eventually open up. Men are very slow to open up. And here's what men do. And I've mentioned this at the top of the show is when you have a sexual issue like that, very often they will run away. They'll lie about it out of fear,
Yeah.
of being humiliated because you're no longer a man, right? But that's not true. You're still a man. And so what they will do is throw themselves, immerse themselves into anything but their own health, and which is a tragedy because the truth is it can be reversed. And I mentioned that, I said all this again earlier on because I want to emphasize and re-emphasize to you, when you take care of your health, we're talking about here in my books are meaning the books I'm about to write. In my books, sexuality is intimacy, lovemaking is a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Because you're integrating the divine feminine and the divine masculine within yourself and with another person. So that's, to me, that's as spiritual as you can get when done properly.
Yeah.
But sex, the mechanistic one, truth be told, it's absolutely boring compared to the
Yeah.
intimate level. So let's look at some of the things. Let's stay on the psychological, then we'll come back to the physical. Let's look at some practices they can do to
Yeah.
improve their mindset, their mental health. Let's talk about breathing. What can they do with the breathing?
Breathing is a big one, and I'm not sure how many men actually know this or people know this, but breathing helps you to slow your mind and also be present in that moment. So practicing breath work of yogic breathing of any kind that you can start with at least, and then go into more intense breath work like Kapalbhati, for example. It's a great breathing exercise, and it's very intense, and it helps you to build up your lower abdominal muscles as well, and that is going to help you with the ED issues. Yeah. And also with the pelvic floor. And pelvic floor exercise is another one which you need to do, when we come to the exercise part of it. But breath work is also important in terms of slowing yourself down. Yeah. When it is slower, it is more juicier, and the longer it builds up, when you have a build up to it, much longer build up, you have much better release. Yeah. Rather than just having a quick sex or a quick ejaculation. And that is to do with your breath. So learning how to slow your breath is the first step, I would say.
The when it comes to the mind issue, of course, I mean, one of the things you mentioned about breathing is slow out breath. And so, for those of you geeky and scientific minded, is this that part of the problem is you are on fight or flight mode all the time. Even if you can deny as much as you like, but you are. Come to me and I'll prove it to you. You're in fight or flight mode most of the time, which means you're sympathetic. There's nothing sympathetic about it. You're sympathetic. Your activation nervous system
Yeah.
is overly active. And so by breathing out slowly, slower than your in breath, then what you're doing is you're activating your brake system, your rest and digest. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And
Mhm.
that is critical because when you're in fight or flight, you're basically stressed all the time. And stress is the big killer
Yeah.
of erections. Think about it. If you're stressed, how good is the sex going to be? Not going to be good. If the woman's stressed, ain't going to be no sex. That's, like consensual sex, of course. So let's talk about meditation. How does meditation help? Because meditation is extremely important.
Yes, I think meditation, we are going a little bit further, but yes, first step would be to start breathing better. And learning to breathe with awareness, and that takes you towards meditation. If you then are inclined, you can sit where you have moments of silence, moments of peace, and then slowly that develops into a bigger meditation practice. If you ask anybody to just start sitting into meditation practice just like that, tomorrow you want to start, is going to be probably the hardest thing to do. But when you start to learn how to work with your breath, you can control your mind better. Your mind is controlled automatically. You don't even have to try to do anything with that. But mindfulness works. Mindfulness um, about your own body awareness as well. Yeah. So that will work along with the breathing exercises.
Yeah, absolutely. And so moving on, well, just be aware. I mean, remember, we're trying to, for yourself, one of your aims should be to minimize distress, minimize anxiety and worry.
Yeah.
Be present, be as present as you can. This is what the breathing will certainly help you do, and definitely the meditation once you've got a bit of practice in. So let's move slightly on to the physical side. One of the things that I strongly recommend, and I'm going to go against it in a minute here, for helping building your immune system, and definitely be useful for people with type 2 diabetes, is if you're looking to get pregnant, meaning your wife, partner is, you want them to get pregnant, then sauna is not something I would recommend because that high heat
Yeah.
is not good for your old swimmers. They need cooler temperatures. In fact, at my local gym, there's a young man who, in his late 20s, mid 20s, he comes and uses the sauna. And and we've had conversations. I've had this conversation about how good it is for your immune system, your lung health, and so on. And autophagy, I talked about that. And I hadn't seen him in the sauna for a while. And I saw him at the gym, and I said, "What? Why I haven't seen you in the sauna? Are you okay?" He says, "Oh, I'm not going to use the sauna for a while." So why? Well, I'm listening to your advice. Me and my wife are trying for another baby. We've got a 4-year-old. We want another one. So there you go. So if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction, you might want to minimize your sauna usage. If you're looking to reverse type 2 diabetes, personally, I would say go for the reverse type 2 diabetes first because that will make reversing erectile dysfunction a lot more easier. And that's in my opinion, of course.
I,
So,
I, I do have a tip for that.
uh,
So not going to the sauna, but one tip that I give to my clients and that helps really well is to use hot and cold shower.
yes,
Little bit stronger shower, so not the softer stream, little bit stronger, and you use it not very hot, slightly warm, and very cold,
yes.
as much as you can bear. So alternate, you do it all alternatively, one after the other for a few seconds, how long you can do it, and that helps a great deal with eating.
So when you put your cold shower on and you are not screaming like Carlton Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, then you're not doing it properly. It's got to be so cold and you're there long enough, you're really screaming like a 3-year-old girl. Okay, he's not a 3-year-old girl, but you get the drift. The idea is to cause a very special kind of stress, and that's actually good for you in
Yeah,
many respects.
to bring the
So
blood flow.
yeah, that's exactly what it's about. It's about getting your blood flow in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I cut
we
you. You were talking about
no,
something.
no, 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 not at all. So one of the things that we do because of the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and certainly the foods that most people eat is pick up toxins. Is toxicity an issue for people with type 2, with erectile dysfunction?
Toxicity is one issue, and we know that there are toxins in everything. I mean, food, even organic food, is not really spared. So we do have, when we do check for metal toxicities, if we have to go for that test, we will find shockingly high levels of toxicity, in our bloodstream. Uh, Generally, you can do the hair test where they check your hair strand for toxicity, but that is one factor which will reduce, of course, it will reduce your sperm count, it will reduce your fertility, and also make you less, will have ED issues because of the blood flow issue. So it is blocking metals have what we call, what's the word I'm looking for? The metallic structure. They are bigger in size and they block how they are represented in your body, and that is what causes the blood to be restricted and not going to the penis.
Well, basically, cells, your cell membrane, your cell wall has channels for ions, positive, negative ions to
Yeah,
flow through. These are for normal nutrition. Of course, when you have heavy metals, they go in there, they don't get through the channel, they get stuck.
that's right.
And what they found, I can't remember the exact number from the top of my head, but what they found is that people with, for example, prostate cancer, they've got 10,000, 20,000 times more heavy metal toxicity than a
Right.
healthy cell. That's massive number. And where
Yeah.
does that toxicity come from? Like I said, foods, cigarettes. I mean, you're like cigarettes, it's a slow death, but it's going to definitely affect it.
Yeah.
So from an Ayurvedic perspective, I've got my own particular angle, but from my Ayurvedic perspective, are there particular detoxification processes you take people through?
Absolutely. We have spoken about Panchkarma.
Yeah,
Ayurveda has got the best detoxification and rejuvenation, the whole program that one can take. But that you also need to work on your diet. So, again, finding out your body constitution, your mind constitution, what foods are good for you, foods you should be eating, and reducing your toxicity load as such. Uh, Another thing to remember is what we call the disruptors, the hormone disruptors that are present in our chemicals. Any
yeah,
kind of sprays that you're using, your deodorants, for example, you might
yeah.
be using antiperspirants. Even inguinally, men use if they are perspiring a lot, or if you're using any particular creams or body lotions. And if they are cheaper ones, the cheaper they are, the higher they're going to have the level of hormone disruptors. So making sure that you are not using any of those near or anywhere on your body, but at least not in those areas.
It's, the amounts of endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors you're talking about, one and the
Yeah.
same thing, in those products are absolutely unbelievable. I will look up after we've done the live recording. I will look up a link that people can use. I use that when I've got clients who've got endocrine issues. Then I
Mm.
actually ask them what products are they using, deodorants, etc. Just like how you said,
Yeah.
and this is a great website, and I forget the name of it. I'm going to have to dig it up. It's a great website which has got, they've taken thousands and thousands of products. These are scientists in laboratories. They've taken each product, broken down into its constituent parts, and they tell you which ones are most destructive and which ones are the least destructive.
Yeah.
Truth be told, we actually don't, it's horrendous. Occasionally, especially young men, you'll see them. They'll get Lynx spray. Sorry, Lynx, you're not sponsoring the show. They get Lynx spray and they'll spray forever. My nephew used
Yeah.
to do that. I still think, I'm like, pure poison. And in fact, I know of a story, I think it's 10 or 12-year-old boy who did exactly that and died literally that day as a result of it. I don't know the exact, well, that was the cause of it, but this is a while back. I read, it was in headline news at some point. So you do not need so many things. I mean, we're talking about men's health here. Women's, I feel women have got worse, to be honest with you, in terms of so many
Of course.
choices. Go ahead.
I've got another point to make here is also the type of underwears people wear. So
Right.
if it has to be pure cotton. So if you're using or mixing any other textile with it, like you have
Plastics.
synthetic or plastic, the more plastic material they are using now as synthetic as fabrics, and that does not allow your body to breathe very well. So specifically those portions, like I always advise women to sleep without underwears, and men should do the same, is to let your body, your skin breathe. Yeah.
In our culture, actually, in our culture, what do they use? They wear sarongs, longis, we call them, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
we wear longis, and it's like a, I don't want to call it a skirt because it's not. It's a piece of cloth
Sarong,
that.
yeah.
Sorry.
Men's sarong, yeah.
It's men's sarong, yeah. I mean, and what the Scots do, the kilts, they actually. Do you understand why William Wallace is so manly? These guys didn't cover their nut sacks up with anything, so
Yeah.
that's very important. So while we're talking about nut sacks and men, what's one of the issues you talked to me before the show? Actually, one of the issues about men's activities that has been scientifically shown. I want to see the papers. I haven't seen them, which
I,
actually will help with ED. Go ahead.
I'll send you the links. So yeah, men. I mean, I know this more in relation to fertility. So where men need to improve their sperm count, and they have done studies on that, is when you do specifically two activities. One is carpentry, and the other one is wood cutting. So if you want to improve your sperm count, and even if you want to improve your performance, you should be wood cutting as part of your weekly activity. And there are scientific papers on this. This is not just some kind of old ancient story, because it improves. How you would, because if you're cutting wood, I guess you're using this big axe which is heavy, and then you're using the muscles that are required. There's pelvic floor engaged. Perhaps there is, all of that is a reason, right? So it's not just happening without any reason. But masculine activities, which were specifically done by men in the past, they are the ones which help to improve ED as well as sperm count.
Yeah, and it's so important because we live in a world which is super politically correct, and it is disheartening to see so many people fall for that. And
Yeah.
I do think there's a political agenda behind this. I won't go into that, but what I will say is this: that if you've got erectile dysfunction issues, then the truth is you will feel emasculated. This is for many men, of course, who are heterosexual men. They'll feel emasculated. Well, if that's the case, then find ways to do masculine activities. What psychologically, for example, will go on to that is that traditionally, and I can't remember where I read this, but traditionally women gather in groups. It's important for them, and what it does is it releases, particularly, what's the hormone again for
Oxytocin.
neurotransmitter? Oxytocin. It releases oxytocin, which is about trust building, etc. But it
Yeah.
also helps them with their femininity. And I think, oh yes, that's right. I was talking to, I did a webinar series a way back, online summit with some of the world's best relationship experts, and we we're talking about that. Women should be gathered around regularly with other women, just doing whatever they do. Whereas men, on the
Mm.
other hand, they need me time. The man cave. You need to go out into the wilderness. If you look at the ancient cultures, like the Aborigines, for example, the indigenous Americans, proper Americans, the
Mm.
indigenous people, what do the boys do when they're 14 or 12? Judaism. I mean, lots and lots of ancient cultures. Young men will go out into the wilderness on their own to
Yeah.
learn survival. The Spartans, I mean,
That-
they're as manly as you get, right? They started from a very young age. Okay, they got up to some shenanigans as well, but me time is very important. So you've got to, we talk about equality. There's certain things you can't, equal. A man needs high levels of testosterone,
yeah.
less estrogen. You said before in the past recordings episode that men have estrogen and testosterone, as do
We all
women.
have all the
Yeah,
hormones. Yes.
that's right. And so it's so important that if you've got erectile dysfunction, then re-engage with activities that remove your dysfunction. So when it comes to food, though, it's a big thorny topic. Is there specific foods that men should be avoiding if they've got erectile dysfunction?
Yes, generically, very generically speaking, the more spicier food, salty food, they will not help with ED. So you should avoid eating those foods. However, you need to eat according to your body and mind constitution. As I always say, you find out what doshas you are, what is your personality type, and then you eat foods which are good for you and which are not good for you. We also know that excessively high sweet foods does not help with ED either. So if you're eating too much sugary foods, that is not helpful. But that's very, very generic. There's no specific food which actually doesn't help, but eating a lot of spices and peppers and salty food all the time will reduce your ability to get erected. Yeah.
It's almost like, as I'm hearing it metaphorically, it's almost like these are fiery foods which will fuel your internal fire and burn you out, leaving you with less energy to
You could
use
say that.
for
Yeah.
intimacy.
Yeah. You could say that. It's just too much fire.
Yeah.
And it's not helping you to where there's no balance. Yeah. And also with the salt, you get a lot of water retention as well. So it doesn't help if you have too much salty food. We know that for anybody for men or women equally. So that is generally speaking, but it is about finding the foods which are good for you and which are not good for you and eating accordingly. And we know that obesity then doesn't help. Or if you have got sedentary lifestyle where there is more rest of the body is fine, but you're more pear shaped and you have more abdominal fat, this will not help.
So going back to, and we're zigzagging around, but let's go back to body constitution. Is there anything you can say about the three doshas, the three body constitutions that
Every
might help in the right direction for our men watching?
Yes, I think we need to do one episode just on the constitution so that we can always put that link there and people
Yeah.
can watch that as well. But it is to do with Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and the combination of these three doshas that makes your body and mind constitution. It is basically your unique fingerprint. It's your body and mind print that you have. The way you think, the way you behave, the way you eat, digest, sleep, all of that is unique to you. And once you know that, then you know which foods are good for you. So if you're Vata, what kind of foods are good and bad for you. So you need to eat foods accordingly. And it is going to take you good, I would say, 1 year to really understand how your doshas change over the seasons, over the whole year, and what foods you should be eating in what quantity, what time. And it's subtle changes that will make the huge difference.
So for those of you watching, we are going to be launching our brand new joint podcast because this is really my channel and I love having you here. But we've got a joint channel. We're starting next week live. It will be just on YouTube, live on YouTube. And the channel is called Natural Medicine Podcast. I better double check. Natural Medicine Podcast. It'll be on Spotify and Apple Music and all other good places. But please join us, the Natural Medicine Podcast. We'll
Yeah.
put the link if you're on our email list, on my email list, or connected to us in any way. Then stay in touch with us next week, 7 p.m. UK time, our first episode. I reckon, right, the first episode, since you've just mentioned it, the first episode should be on doshas, body and mind constitution,
Yeah.
because that's the foundation of everything that we're going to do. So we're going to refer to that episode again and again.
We
What
should.
do you think?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's just, we can, because we can extend that to how we are using mind and personality typing. They're doing typing for recruiting. They're doing color typing now. There are red colored people, there are yellow people, there are green people, and this. But if you do the Ayurvedic dosha assessment, it's the most thorough, and it's the most logical one. And then you have the foods, and you have the lifestyle, you have the whole thing that goes with it. So yeah, that would be great actually as a starting point.
And it's also it's important. If you suffer from erectile dysfunction, you might say, well, what the hell does it got to do with my erections? Everything. Because let's put it this way. Imagine, I'm going to use an athletics as an example. Imagine, right, that you got Usain Bolt, big, tall, lanky guy, massive muscles. He is or was the fastest runner in the world, and he won left, right, and center. But those were for short distances. Would he have been able to do a marathon or an ultra marathon?
Yeah.
Possibly, yes, but he certainly wouldn't have come from first, second, third, fourth, or 10th. He wouldn't come last. He would struggle. And then if you compare, like, say, for example, someone who's an ultra distance runner, who's usually very wiry, very thin, possibly tall as well, you put them up against Usain Bolt, they've got no chance. They'll do well, but they've got no chance against him. So what happens is this, that when you're physically behaving in a way, so the foods that you're eating and how you're eating and when you're eating, when you're behaving in a way that goes against your body constitution, guess what it creates? Anxiety. And as we always say in the show, that the mind and body, there's no connection, they're one. So when you create anxiety in your body, then you're creating anxiety in your mind. When you're creating anxiety in your mind and your body, hello? Wakey wakey? No, no wakey wakey. So, to get that aubergine working in good order, you really got to get rid of the anxiety, rid of the stress. I know I'm joking about it, but it's true though.
No, we have to.
Let's be real. Look, I'm talking to the men, right? I'm
I'm
talking to
not
the men.
laughing at anybody. It's
Uh,
just we got to make it a little lighter.
yeah, of
Otherwise,
course.
it's a
We
huge
got
issue.
well. Of course, we're going to end up being depressed. So, men, look, the reality is that you deserve an amazing life.
Yeah.
You deserve to be in the best relationship if that's what you're choosing. You deserve to be in a successful job if that's what you choose. But do you think perhaps your performance at work will be affected by your testosterone flow, by your erections, and so on? Of course it will be. They're all interlinked, absolutely interlinked. So you can't run away from yourself. That's the one thing. You can run away from doing jobs. You can run away from having money or not having money. It doesn't matter. You can run away from all of these things. You can run away and live under a bridge, but you can never run away from your body. And your body is a temple, not a damn ancient ruin. So if it's a temple, then treat it as a sacred temple rather than an ancient ruin. And this is the thing that I'm trying to emphasize here, that just because, and if you're married or in a relationship, the fact that you're in that relationship, your partner might be very supportive, but you're also depleting them of an important human right they've got. And the fact that they're being a martyr by staying with you, hats off to them. But seriously, dude, you need to do something about it. Is there anything else? I mean, we can talk about this forever, by the way. We'll keep it short. Yes, you can do detoxification and
I
we'll.
have, yeah.
Yes. Let's talk
I
about it.
just want to mention because I have worked with some men related to, again, as a couple, they came and then we found out that men had the issue of ED. So I have worked on a number of men where we have used Ayurvedic therapies, and particular therapy that I want to mention. So one of the tips that I've already mentioned that works really well. A second one is pelvic floor exercise. So learn how to do pelvic floor exercise in a particular way. So it's better to go to a specialist and learn with them how to engage your pelvic floor. And the third one is the therapy that we do in-house. You have heard of Shirodhara, where the warm oil drops on your forehead. Yeah. In this therapy, it's called Takradhara. We use lassi or the yogurt drink, and we use it medicated. And that flows on your forehead, the whole head. Yeah. And I have seen some really encouraging results with men with that, where the ED had reduced and they were better able to perform literally within 4 weeks to 6 weeks time. Yeah. So they
Wow.
were coming for weekly sessions and we would do this treatment. And it's a really cooling treatment, which is we also use for insomnia, we use for anxiety as well. Uh, so that is something that men can also use. But to say that there is, only Viagra is the solution or only
No.
drugs is the solution, that is not the case. Therapy work, learn that, and I've seen wonderful results with my patients.
And if you notice, we didn't talk about Viagra, and there's several other medications,
Yeah,
and all of them have side effects. And the truth is, the reality is that your erectile dysfunction isn't something that just for most people, that is, I would guess 99.9% of men who have that ED issues, it's not happened by accident. It's a buildup of toxicity and behaviors and lifestyle choices that you made, which, by the way, can be changed. You can teach an old dog new tricks. I know I'm calling you an old dog, right? The guy's watching, not you. Just to clear that up. Okay, brilliant. So, all right. So, thank you everybody for watching. And here's what I recommend: come and join us in our brand new natural medicine podcast. We will be going a lot more into detail now. We're going to probably have everything planned out as well, I hope. And really, our aim is very simple. Our aim is to make health, wellness, happy, fulfilling life freely available. Of course, if you want to pay for stuff, that's a different matter, but freely available as best you can, because most of your health, most of your health is in your own hands. You don't
yeah.
actually need help. You just need to take the actions. That's it. And you're getting it for free. People are paying us tens of thousands of pounds to work privately with them. That's different. You're getting it for free. So take advantage. See you next week. Bye for now, Ashish, and bye
All
everyone for
right.
watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.